Hello students, welcome back to Bilingual tutorial. Here the poem Refugee Blues continues with its analysis. Analyze the poem in detail. Refugee Blues is about the plight of Jewish refugees in 1930s. When the poem was written in 1939, millions of Jews were trying to flee Nazi Germany. However, most countries had strict quotas on Jewish immigration, and as a result, most Jews were trapped between countries, unable to find a safe refuge and get terrified to return home. First stanza says, "Say the city has 10 million souls. Some are living in mansions, some are living in homes. Yet there is no place for us, my dear, yet there is no place for us." The poem opens when the speaker is trapped in a difficult situation. The speaker is in an unnamed city. The city is enormous and 10 million people live there. Some of them are very wealthy and living in mansion, and some are very poor and they are living in house. The speaker carefully constructed this line to emphasize the difference between rich and poor. And despite of these differences, they are united in one respect. They all have some kind of home, whether it is mansion or a tenement. But the speaker has no such security. As the speaker complains, addressing another refugee whom the speaker simply calls "my dear," and there is no place for us. And here the person who is addressed as "my dear" may be his love, maybe his wife, or simply a companion, but better address him as a companion itself. And speaker's condition is worse than even the poorest of the poor. At least they have a home. And this homelessness is especially bitter because the speaker once had a home, a country that the refugee thought was fair. And it is explained in the second stanza. Once we had a country and we thought it fair. Look at the atlas and you'll find it there. We cannot go there now, my dear, we cannot go there now. Here, speaker remembers that once they had a country, and maybe he is speaking about Palestine, and they thought it is the world and they are safe there. But now their own country is far away and they have to browse through the atlas to see it because they can't go there. Although the speaker identifies as a German Jew, Germany no longer feels like home. The speaker thought this country was fair, but beautiful and just a safe place for the Jews to live. But now, notice how the speaker refers to it in past tense. Once we had a country, the speaker continues mournfully. We cannot go there now. The speaker cannot go back because it's not safe. Hitler has taken power in Germany. The third stanza remarks the hope of rebirth. In the village churchyard there grows an old yew. Every spring it blossoms anew. Old passports can do that, my dear. Old passports can do that. Speaker says the yew tree in churchyard is old. It still put forth new flowers on every spring. Through this yearly cycle, the tree is reborn. It has a chance to renew itself, regardless who holds the political power and what their policies are. But speaker does not have the same chance. Speaker's passport does not follow the rhythm of nature. It is not reborn every spring. It has expired, and the speaker's home country, Germany, refuses to renew it, thus denying the speaker's capacity to travel freely. Then speaker remembers his meeting with the consul. The consul banged the table and said, "If you have got no passport, you are officially dead." But we are still alive, my dear. But we are still alive. Speaker says he had a meeting with the official from his country who is residing in this foreign nation to protect them. He remembers how he was denied by telling that refugees are as good as dead if they did not have updated passport. And it seems that it is their misfortune that they are still among the living people. And without proper document, they can't enter the new nation which will save people who are refugees. And they felt they are living corpse. Then he went to a committee expecting some help from them. Went to a committee, they offered me a chair, asked me politely to return next year. But where shall we go today, my dear? But where shall we go today? When he went to meet the officials who had been made responsible for providing war refugees homes, they had been more polite to him, yet hadn't been able to help him, having their hands tied because of the policies and rules, and had told him to return next year. But he was in a dilemma to get a shelter till next year. Speaker recalls a public meeting. Came to a public meeting, the speaker got up and said, "If we let them in, they'll steal our daily bread." And he was talking of you and me, my dear. He was talking of you and me. The speaker recalls a public meeting held in the country that took in refugees and understood they were resistant to the act of accepting refugees. At the meeting, a politician stood and argued against letting refugees into the country because they would be a burden to the host country as they need to part the natives' work and food. He was saying that Jews would steal the resources of the country, preventing it from prospering. And this politician has no sympathy for the plight of Jewish refugees and thought that the economic well-being of his own country is more important than the lives of Jewish people. Next stanza. Thought, I heard the thunder rumbling in the sky. It was Hitler over Europe saying, they must die. Who we were in his mind, my dear, who we were in his mind. The speaker thought of the thundering noise he heard, and he knows it's the sound of battle which is going on, because this poem was written in 1939, just before the beginning of World War II. But here he reveals the sound comes from Hitler himself. Hitler's language itself is a form of violence. The thundering noise of Hitler is heard giving orders to the soldiers to kill the Jews. This underlines the anxiety and fear of the speaker. If speaker returns home to Germany, will be forced to face Hitler's violence. Here, the speaker expresses his helplessness. On one side, everyone is refusing to help them, and from the other side, Hitler wants to kill all the Jews. Speaker says, saw a poodle in a jacket fastened with a pin, saw a door open and a cat let in. But they were in German Jews, my dear, but they were in German Jews. The speaker looked around and saw European dogs and cats which have been allowed in America to live, but German Jews were not allowed. Indeed, the inhabitants of the city seems more willing to help the animals than these refugees. They give comfort and welcome to the poodle and cats. They even dress their dogs in fancy jackets to keep them warm, and thus, even though they do not announce their unacceptability of refugees or Jews with the same forces as the Nazis, but their behavior reveals it. They act as though the lives of animals are more valuable to them than that of the Jews. Speaker says, went down the harbour and stood upon a quay. saw the fish swimming as if they were free. Only 10 feet away, my dear, only 10 feet away. When he went to harbor, he realized even the fish nearby are more free than him because they are freely swimming in the sea. See how it is swimming so freely, and it is only 10 feet away from him. The fish is only 10 feet away from him, and the freedom is also 10 feet away from him. Then he says, walk through a wood, saw the birds in the tree. They had no politicians and sang at their ease. They were in the human race, my dear. They were in the human race. The speaker says, when he walked through the forest, he saw birds sang freely in the tree. From all these, he identified why these animals and birds are living freely. It's because there is no politicians among them. He envies them for not being involved with politicians as they are not human beings. Now it's his dream. Dreamed I saw a building with 1,000 floors, 1,000 windows, and 1,000 doors. Not one of them was ours, my dear. Not one of them was ours. The speaker describes the skyscrapers of modern world. The building is a huge one with thousands of floors, windows and doors. But in this huge building there is no space for the Jewish refugees. Actually, these Jewish refugees, they don't need more space, only a single room, that to a plain room they need. But here the building represents a society that is large and impressive with so many resources and such an economic power. But they are not ready to help the refugees who want little. There is no place or space for a refugee. The speaker concludes by inviting the death. Stood on a plain in the falling snow, 10,000 soldiers marched to and fro, looking for you and me, my dear, looking for you and me. In the concluding stanza, the speaker anticipates the war that is about to start and that Jewish refugees will be chased all over the continent by Nazi soldiers who want to murder them. The speaker feels unprotected. That's why he uses the image, the Great Plain. The Great Plain does not have any place to hide. It says that for the refugees, they don't have any place to hide. And the soldiers will chase them and surely they'll kill them. And this great plain makes it easy for the 10,000 soldiers to find them and kill. They are only 2 or 3, but the soldiers are 10,000 in number. The speaker blames the soldiers for their brutal inhumanity as they are pursuing and killing innocent people. The speaker in the poem faces two kinds of anti-Semitism. One side there is Nazi regime with its explicit state-sanctioned violence against Jews. On another side it is less explicit, the anti-Semitism of countries who use immigration quotas to exclude Jews. And these countries have power to help them, indeed to save the life of speaker, but they refuse to do so. Speaker blames the politician, even though they have the power to change the laws that exclude Jewish, they refuse to grant asylum to the Jewish refugees. Throughout the poem, the speaker's mood is bleak and mournful. Here ends the analysis of the poem Refugee Blues, and next video will include the poetic devices used in this poem. And to get that video, please subscribe. Thank you. Thanks for watching this video.